r/AskReddit. What's the most legendary thing that happened in your school? Jeff jumped off the roof of the chapel into a dumpster filled with empty cardboard boxes. 50-foot drop. 8x8 dumpster. Edit. We are gathered here today to mourn the inbox of a kralopede. Edit 2. Some background. Twice a week at our school, the junior and senior guys were on garbage/recycling duty after lunch. We'd gather all the garbage bags and recycling from the classrooms and offices. The building was a school attached to a church with offices and a sort of community center. It wasn't a huge building, but it was pretty big. We'd take all the garbage and trash out to the dumpster, which was set next to some sheds behind the building. That's how it all started, Jeff jumping off a 10-12-foot shed into a dumpster full of cardboard boxes. We'd laugh, roll the dumpster out to where the garbage guy could get to it. Someone else rolled it back when garbage was collected. One day Jeff climbed the backstop of the baseball field right near the dumpsters. That was a 25-30 foot drop. I think he made that one look easy. Then he dropped in from out of a tree. That was probably about 40 feet. Finally, about a month from our graduation, he told us his plan. He had to break into the crawl space above the chapel, accessible by a padlock trapdoor on the 3rd floor of classrooms. Then climb up through the attic space of the chapel and onto the roof. The chapel parking lot sloped sharply by about 7-8 feet, which is where the 50-foot drop comes in. We saved boxes for weeks, set them up in the dumpster, put it in the parking lot about 15 feet from the chapel wall, and watched him jump. Welcome to Jackass. This was spring 2002. It was at the height of Jackass popularity on MTV, and Jeff wanted to emulate everything he saw on that show. At the school where I used to teach, the students told me that years ago, someone swapped the science teacher's Bill Nye video with a hardcore porn tape. According to legend, the teacher didn't notice for quite a while, and the students watched several minutes of smut that day. I told my class that it was a stupid rumor, and I'm sure that never happened. When class was over, one of my students walked up and said, "Mr. Hi-Philo class? It's true. My brother was the one who switched the tape. Something similar happened in my English class, and it was all my fault. We had the coolest English teacher, and one day the ants plane crash came up in conversation during a lesson. I have no idea why. I said I had a copy of the movie live on video. So he asked me to bring it in, and we would watch it over the course of 2 classes. This was the 90s. So my video had actually been recorded off TV. I think you can see where this is going. We watch the movie, and as the credits roll and we are all sitting there deeply affected by the events portrayed in the film, it suddenly cuts out to what the movie had been recorded over: my twin brother's copy of The Erotic Adventures of the Three Musketeers. The Erotic Adventures of the Three Musketeers. From the title alone it sounds like a cinematic masterpiece. There was a huge exting scandal where a handful of girls' images were being sent around. Well, when the school caught wind of it, they did the only thing a school could do: they held an assembly. Girls in the auditorium and boys in the gym. After an hour or so of "you shouldn't do that," they had the district attorney come in to talk about the legality of underage exting. One of the seniors stood up and asked him if it was legal if they were over 18. He said yes, and the entire place went nuts. Everyone was cheering, clapping, and laughing. The principal walked over to the mic and said, "Who asked that?" The guy stood up again and triumphantly said, "Zen Master Steve." The audience once again erupted into cheers as he got called into the principal's office. Good on the attorney for being straightforward and honest with them. He has to be. He's an attorney. When I was in grade 9, I was sitting in the computer lab working, and during the communications class, all of a sudden, we hear this loud revving getting louder and louder. Something passing by very quickly then fading away. Our teacher ran out of the room after it. And crike, I had no idea the man could move that quickly. I was in crutches due to a sports injury, so I had to hobble out behind the rest of the class as we tried to find out what was going on. Apparently, one of seniors brought an ATV to school and drove through the halls. What was legendary was that he somehow was never caught. Edit. I love the internet. Half the replies are about my 6 AM sleepiness type. All of a sudden. I mean, it's technically not wrong. Edit more detail. This was in Canada. In the early 2000s. There was a video floating somewhere on FB. Which means it's probably lost forever. Pretty crappy. Since it was literally one of the early digital cameras taped onto the guy's helmet. If I remember correctly. They let him in through an unused auto classroom side door. And he rode out the back. The area was very rural. So he probably drove it in instead of in the back of a pickup. Most likely rode it straight home too. So yeah. No proof at the end of it. How do you not catch that? Can't catch what's moving fast. Desperately tries to cleverly work a Sonic meme in his post. Rumor says 2 junior kids had X in the gym changing room. It's nothing that special. But in the story, the girl was on period, but they did it anyway. How did they know the girl was on period? Because a teacher heard it and told them to come out immediately. The boy came out with blood on his face like a coyote eating a corpse. Apparently someone liked going downtown speeding through red lights. Going downtown speeding through red lights. Best euphemism I've seen for earning your Red Wings. Unless she has a yeast infection. In which case it's earning your bread wings. My middle school was on a hill in the tallest building in the area. During Fleet Week, the Blue Angels flew, what must have been, 100, 200 feet above it. Shattered like 30 windows on the top floor of the school. That reminds me of the time an upper window of my school had a semicircle cut through it. Like someone was going to break in but gave up. We live in a bubble of wealth. So I have no explanation for someone to break in. The admins never mentioned it. The cut was there the whole year. Edit, I guess tired me sucks at descriptions. But the cut was just a line. From the top of the circle to the bottom. There wasn't really any holes. Just a cut straight through. Nuclei still remain a mystery. Have you tried an explain compound/molecule instead? My first day of high school. I was starting at a whole new neighborhood from moving and knew no one, so I kept to myself. I didn't handle crowds all too well, but I mustered the courage to get out of bed and get ready for school. I ran downstairs and talked to my dad about what I expected to get out of the day and ate breakfast. I walked out to the corner to catch the school bus and that was awful. Nowhere to sit as everyone felt they each had their own damn seat. Story short, I made it to school. As soon as we made it to the school I started walking to my locker. There were so many people I was about to lose my mind and I asked myself if it could get any worse. It did. A girl bumped me from behind to get ahead to catch up with someone. In one swift action, she ripped off her backpack and unzipped it to pull out a kitchen knife to stab the girl directly in front of me right in the back. I froze. I couldn't breathe. I felt dizzy. I turned around and walked straight home. I lived about 10 miles away. I just kept walking. I never looked back. I just wanted to make it home. Crawl upstairs. And sleep in. WTF. Did she live? She lived. Apparently the girl that got stabbed was caught by someone making out with the stabber's boyfriend. The stabber went to either juvenile detention or a mental facility. The victim moved away. Edit. Spelling. I took an A+ course in high school. We had an alright sized lab room for stripping computers and another room full of computers for other work or lessons. There were a few stuffed animals in the lesson room as a half-assed attempt by my teacher to decorate. Those come into play later. My teacher kept finding porn history on one of the computers. It was always horribly spelled or incoherent searches. And she assumed it was a freshman being as smart as to impress his friends during a different class. One day she gets fed up with it and makes a special project for us nerds in her A+ course. She gave us one of the lab computers and the smallest cam she could find and asked us to make a hidden camera. We complied and made a decent one and brought it into the other room. Set it to record with more than enough hard drive space and aimed it at the perp's putter. The next day we fire up the vid and see one of the seniors coming in before school starts, googling some porn and giving himself the old wax job. He cleaned up with one of the stuffed animals and went about his business. She threw out the stuffed animals and the cops got involved. Kid got into trouble, but went into the army after high school. So maybe it all worked out in the end. Oh boy, here's my A+ class stories. So teacher changed and only kept the A+ coursework for 1 year. But under the previous teacher the final was to set up a computer, format/partition a hard drive, and then install Windows 98, Windows XP and a Linux distro on the partitions with specific software. 1 year a single student did all the work and promptly cloned it to all other students. The second story does involve porn. This was when I was in the advanced class, i.e. I took a second year of it. A couple of the seniors hated this one kid, who was pretty annoying, so they wrote a batch file and placed it in the startup folder. The batch file opened a 10-second clip of interracial gay porn, and the seniors had the volume turned all the way up on external speakers. The victim turned on his computer with the teacher standing right behind him, and instead of unplugging the power, went for the speaker cable. The teacher later had the second year students, including myself and the senior who had done it, fix the guy's computer. Seems like every couple months you practice fire drills. And one day the alarm goes off. We start making our way down the stairwell, and there is smoke. I get outside and say to somebody, "Wow, they make these fire drills so realistic. Smoke and everything." The reply I got back was, "The school really is on fire." So yeah, my school caught on fire. That was legendary. I'm not the brightest tool in the shed. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. FDFY. Not the sharpest knife in the crayon box. A guy from my high school thought it would be a great idea to streak through the halls on the last day of school. After running around buckers naked, people who witnessed it began whispering about some guy streaking. Pretty soon the entire school was talking about this unknown mystery guy who ran around with his peen out. Biology teacher witnessed it and said maybe it's just chilly today, but he isn't very well endowed. Soon after, he went to the front office and turned himself in. He apparently walked into a room full of administrators, all women, and just said it was me. They all busted out laughing and said just don't do it again. Edit, typo. When I did that I ended up body checking a girl that didn't get out of my way and getting yelled at by the RCMP. Still totally worth it. How the Mounties came after you? Jesus. Some dude in English class sat next to the electrical outlet. So he decided to grab the kid next to him and stick a piece of metal into the outlet. Shocked the hell out of both of them. They were both fairly okay, but almost scared the teacher to death. Also there was the time a girl had sex with two dudes in the auditorium during a basketball game, and it was caught on the school camera. Her family ended up sending her somewhere else after that. Bill, she's done it again. Size, I'll get the jumper cables. Someone, not me, was tired of drug dogs going through the halls. So someone sprayed barn water all over the principal's car. Dogs didn't come back. I don't know. I think it was you. You little snitch. I attended a high school called Rampart that, despite being a blue ribbon school, had serious budget issues. The budget problems got so bad that the principal started renting out the school gym to anyone willing to pay up to use it. Some guy rented the gym out for a Saturday night, saying he was going to hold a church dance. Instead he held a rave that got so out of hand it destroyed the gym. The incident quickly grew into legend amongst the students. Many claimed to have been there or to have known the guy who threw the rave. We weren't able to use the gym for the rest of the year. They kept the doors locked, but there were constant attempts to force them open so we could see the damage. It didn't take long for the students to start referring to the school as Ravaport, and whenever we had to sing the national anthem would finish it, and the home of the rave. The next year we had a new principal too, but we never knew if the old principal was fired because of the rave incident. Was that new principal Woody Harrelson? I'm just here to talk about Rampart. Not too long after Columbine, two kids ran into the commons at my high school and started throwing firecrackers everywhere. Most students thought it was a shooting and ran away, terrified. Someone called in a bomb threat right after. They only caught one person involved. Edit, a comma. Columbine 2. I don't remember there being a sequel. Electric Boogaloo. Ducking, like and subscribe.